First off, this doesn't really show the problem. I can't show you the problem because the problem occurs when I'm going on the really fast, dangerous parts. And I'm using my hands to steer, and I'm afraid my arms are going to get ripped off and my shoulders are going to get dislocated. This does show you that I can't video and steer this sled at the same time. I stick my foot out there and I'm digging into the snow. It flies in my face. I need to be able to steer and stop with all my body parts in the sled and have my hands free to do other things. Here comes my wife, and as you can see, she could also benefit from a steering and stopping mechanism other than having her feet hanging out, which isn't quite working. So my goal is to be able to steer and stop and slow down without using my hands or my feet. This is version 1.0. It's just a piece of PVC pipe with some plywood on the back, and it works pretty well, but I can only go to the right. But if I grab the end of it, then I can get the plywood farther back and I'm able to turn left. Now, this puts the rudder more directly behind me, and that way I can turn left without having to twist my body quite so much. But I can't stop. It helps me turn. Version 2.0 has rudders that we control with paracord strapped to our boots. So I can stop, I can turn left and right, but they always drag in the snow. The only way to make them straighten out is to let the snow push them back. The paddles didn't stick far enough down into the snow, and the plywood hurt our backs, and the straps were difficult to get on and off. Here's version 2.0. We put a backrest on it. Paddles are sticking a little farther down and the straps are better. We've got a PVC stirrup and a little bungee to hold it on. Here we go. Testing of 2.1 is underway. And what you'll notice here at the beginning is this is an awful video. But I'm pausing it here to emphasize what is one of my favorite parts of the engineering process, or the iterative process, and that's the serendipitous discovery of new information in ways that I never could have anticipated. So this is a terrible video, and I was going to delete it, but then later on I realized, hey, this video is terrible because I can't steer my sled and use my hands to video what's going on with my son up ahead because I don't have one of these modules on my sled. If it hadn't been for this accidentally bad video, my next version would have incorporated hand controls for the paddles. But the video made me realize the virtues of using my feet to steer and having my hands free to do other stuff. The other thing that's striking here is I keep sticking my foot in the snow, and I'm doing that to keep from catching up with my son. He's slow because the paddles, when they're not in use, stay in the snow and create drag. Version 3.0 is still a foot-steered module. The big change is that the cams and the arms, the paddles, are tilted. So they go down into the snow when they engage, and they lift up out of the snow so there's no drag and they're not in use. I was having so much fun I didn't get any video of the testing, but getting the paddles up out of the snow definitely made the sled faster. In version 3.1 I added these stops. You can see the little metal washer right there that prevents the paracord from sliding all the way through the pulley. Here you can see how it works. The metal washer stops the arms from moving back all the way to the center. I also strengthened the arms a little bit. Here's a test with the GoPro. It didn't work so well. Yeah, I gave up on the GoPro idea after this. At least the mounted GoPro. As you saw in version 3.1, the GoPro broke. The paddles also got damaged. One of the bungees was lost. And that paracord got abraded right there. Instead of continuing at a steady pace, I added a whole bunch of features to version 4.0. There was a thaw predicted, and in Vermont, you never know how long it's going to be until you get more snow. I added a bungee hook to keep the tow rope from sliding under the sled. I put a seatbelt on there to hold me to the sled and the sled to me. I combined the pulley mounting bolt and the sled mounting bolt. Made a really big washer so that the bolts wouldn't rip out. There you can see I got rid of the guides. The stop just goes right into the pulley. I added a hinge for the seat so that it could be folded down like that to stack and make it smaller. I used these return bungees for the paddle to hold the seat back in position. I wanted to make stronger paddles, and I didn't have my conduit bender. So I got some of my expensive aluminum and I welded it into these paddle arms. And that was a big mistake. I wasted all morning. I wasted a bunch of money. I knew I wasn't going to eventually make the arms out of this. I only have a limited amount of time to work on my wacky hobbies without irritating the people around me, and I had squandered a whole bunch of it. So, mistake. I used thick plywood for the blades because I thought that'd be a little safer in case I got rear-ended. I also changed the cam setup here. You can see this is when the cam is first engaged. You've got a small radius for low torque and high speed to get that paddle out there. And then when it's fully engaged, there's a bigger radius for more torque and lower speed and more force. You can see here the paddles are set up to dip way into the snow and then lift out, and also that you can access the mounting bolts now. I got my conduit bender back the next day and I made some sensible paddles out of conduit. Here I am carefully setting up version 4.0, making sure that the straps are right, everything's good, and turns nicely, and oh, look what happened to my paddles. Those aluminum paddles I welded are not very good. So here's the backup sled. Notice the seat tilts a little too much. Works well though. The sled's just a little shorter. This has those conduit paddles that have never failed me. Oh, seat broke again. Here I'm setting up a little slalom course. I've gone back and I've swapped out the paddles and fixed the seats. There I am, just trying to go totally hands-free with my seatbelt. That worked pretty well, but the seat came off. Here I bolted it on instead of screwing it on. And then this happened. I was going down the hill and I decided to test my brakes. I hit them hard and the bases for the cams just ripped right off. I realized I had left off these screws that are circled right here. But I still had my little backup sled. Got some good footage. You can see some really high quality braking right here. I needed to shed some speed so I could get around the next turn. Here comes a field-bred English Cocker Spaniel leaping into the video. Isn't that exhilarating? And now the newest version, 5.0. This is the one you'll see in the Instructable. I used some more solid buckles. I pounded down the ends of the conduit and sanded them off for safety. In this version, the bolt to remove the module from the sled has a wing nut. You can take the module right off without disassembling the pulleys or anything else. I also hammered down this end of the tubing to try to make it safer, and you can see I used a fender washer so that there would be less slop in the cam. After all the trouble I had with the seats, I decided to put some bolts in both sides of the hinge. The steering module is pretty compact. You can take it off the sled or put it back on the sled in about a minute. I actually like this sled a lot. I'm happy with the way things turned out. I made a few dumb decisions along the way in my engineering process, but it turned out well in the end. Looking forward to making a few more or refurbishing some of the prototypes that I made and taking them out to Camel's Hump on a long sled down the hill. Thanks for watching.